What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another Walk, Talk, and Rock episode. Today, we'll be talking about the series or franchise by Rockstar, Red Dead Redemption. But first, let me tell you about quick about my day. I went fishing today, half day deep sea fishing, and it was probably the worst experience ever because not only did we go to the spots in the oceans where there were like 20 other fisher boats, we were also chased or like followed by four sea lions and literally a flock of ducks. So it was very impossible to even catch anything. I was pretty upset. We spent like 6 or 7 hours and around $120. And I didn't. We caught one fish. I did catch one yellowtail, but compared to the previous fishing trip, we caught at least 15 fish, and this one we catch one is kind of sad. Well, anyways, today we'll be talking about Red Dead Redemption, and this is going to be a quick one because it's mostly about this modder named what's his name? Sorry, let me read this article. Badass Baboon, and they basically made a mod, which the modding community is great. That kind of rehauls the first Red Dead Redemption game by upgrading the fidelity of the graphics and tweaking the gameplay. Nothing too crazy, but it just goes to show you that even modding communities, such as popular one for Skyrim, are still active. And I hope the modding community continues to thrive. And I hope corporatism continues to dive because that shit's cancer. They contribute nothing but more problems. And they just think about, corporatism is about being selfish and greedy. Nothing about, you know, communism. Shit. Community. In a sense, that's like teamwork. And that really reflects. So, yeah, modding community is the best. So we'll break it down into sections as usual. I'll be talking about Red Dead Redemption, the first one. And then I'll just talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. Probably the best Western RPG game you could ever dream for. And then the third section, why Western style games like Red Dead are still great to play. And the reality of Red Dead and what it actually means if there's going to be a prequel or sequel. But I think they're working on a prequel, right? I think Rockstars are working on a prequel to Red Dead 1. I forgot where I read that. And then we'll talk about like what's obviously next for Red Dead. So I just want to talk about Red Dead Redemption. The whole storyline of Red Dead Redemption 1 is about why John Marston became iconic. But honestly, I felt like, is it Dutch? Is he the antagonist? I don't know. I couldn't tell. I guess he's kind of like an antagonist. But he's a pretty cool character, and the whole Western theme. Like, I feel like it just makes me lead back to capitalism, honestly, because all of that stuff was always a struggle between land, property, and money, right? Oh, see how many problems capitalism causes, or Keynesian economics, or whatever. I feel like they only did that one because there was no other economics guy to go to. And that one only made sense because if you wanted, like, I don't know, when I think about economics and you look at Red Dead Redemption, it just like, it kind of does become a little political. So we're trying to talk about that and we'll just focus more on the gameplay and the story. Alright, so obviously Red Dead Redemption is a Western game where Rockstar kind of came out of nowhere, you know. They usually make Grand Theft Auto series, and when people heard they were making some sort of Western game, it was just like, wow. I thought Western was kind of dead, and it really emphasized on the story of John. You know, you just follow this guy that basically goes around in this world, and you get to learn about the story of his family and the founding of, I guess, the Wild West. I'm not sure if it's based on. I'm pretty sure it's based on something that even I don't really pay attention to the story as much as I think I should, because I usually play the game for a new experience, and I kind of forgot what the story is like. But I think it was about something about like he needs to pay money or something, and then he did like a crime. Then he has to protect his family or something and get revenge, something like that. Something Wild West like, you know. So basically, he used to be an outlaw, and then he tried to escape that life. So then, like I said, he got a son. I mean, a wife, a son, and then a ranch, right? And he didn't want to go back to being an outlaw, you know, no more crime. But then the government, oh my god, the government was like, you just can't walk away. We're basically, you know, fascists, and this is our land. It's crazy because like if people didn't believe in those people and you just literally fight those people, like it's already invalidated. Like imagine a group of people were born before you and they told you we are the government. If you don't listen to us, we're gonna kill your entire family. Wow. Everybody should kill those people instead because that's kind of messed up, right? That's literally how most of these countries operate today. You know, they tell you if you don't listen, you die. So every country in this world runs on that principle. So in that theory, every country in this world is fascist, whether you like it or not. To like the core beliefs, you know, they'd be like, oh no, we're democracy, we're capitalism, communism, socialism. Nah, every country on earth is low-key fascist because they have a single central powers that literally dictate everything. So don't tell me I'm wrong. Just write it down. Write every single point down for every country, and write the key leaders, and it's all fascism. And I guess that's what you see here. Because I feel like back then in America, there's a lot of parties. You know, there was definitely the fascist party, a communist party, and all that. So I guess you get to see those in action, relatively speaking, even though it's not actually mentioned in the game. But politically, ideologically, it is in the game, which is crazy when I think about it. So then, the government wants them, or John, to basically, you know, kill those people that he worked with. And I guess that's what Dutch is, part of that embassy or whatever game. And yeah, you just follow that story. And it's just a crazy, wild west, every man for himself. But he does it so amicably that he doesn't really want to hurt them. But he has no choice because, you know, you got to do things. And that's how they get you, you know. You know, that's how these fascist people get you. You know, they make you raise or have a family, and then they go after your kids and wife and everybody you love, which is just a classic bullshit that I don't want to even contribute to anything to this kind of society ever in my life. It's crazy shit. Like, how many years has it been, and people still do that dumb shit? It's beyond me. All right. So other than that, in RDR or Red Dead Redemption, it's like I said, more bureaucratic, and it's just a world of historical features that the game heavily focuses on. Like I said, federal law, a little bit of the technology, and the modernization of the world. With the pistols and trains and all that. So I guess for them, it was a relatively easy game to make, since their other game, Grand Theft Auto franchise, is just way better. Moving on, John Marston isn't trying to conquer the West. He's just trying to survive civilization, like everybody else. Then, contrary to what we have in real life, compared to like Rockefeller and I guess Lehman Brothers and other people like that, Maddox, so many other people, right, in this world that have a strong grasp on other people's beliefs for some reason. It just makes you want to think, like, how did those people convince a billion other people that they deserve what they have? Which is weird, right? Like, everybody knows who the richest people are, yet we are just okay with it, which is weird. It doesn't really make sense. So I guess in the end, everybody's either one, they don't care, two, they're unaware, or three, they are friends of the friends of the friends of the group or something, or they're all in it. There's this quote: "It isn't corruption unless I'm part of it." Wow, that's crazy. To define corruption is, like I said, you just use a Venn diagram, list everything, and if you have more points on the side that is more evil and corrupt, it's definitely corruption. All right, it's that simple. Venn diagrams solve everything. It's even very useful in software engineering, AI, and just anything in life. So we also have the era of like the undead nightmare that they added zombies in the game, which obviously I don't think it's gonna happen. And let's see. I guess another question is: would you rather have Rockstar make another Red Dead Redemption title, or something like Undead Nightmare 2, which is I think a DLC or spin-off of the game, but you can fight zombies, which is it's okay. I feel like there's a lot of zombie games, so we don't really need it. My opinion. What do you think? But other than that, Rockstar probably made the strangest sequel this is possible. Instead of continuing John's story forward, they went the backwards. So in RDR2, we already know the game is doomed. So we just go back, I guess, into thinking about all those things, and we play a different character that is part of the original game where John is, Arthur Morgan. And Arthur Morgan is one of the strongest reasons why I think Red Dead Redemption 2 was good. As you got to see the kind of the big overall picture of everything, with the whole gang of Dutch, Hosea, John himself, Abigail, Javier, Bill, Charles, and Sadie. And I feel like this is one of those series where if you played the first one, Red Dead Redemption 1, it would definitely help with you in kind of knowing those Easter eggs in Red Dead Redemption 2. So you should definitely play Red Dead Redemption and then Red Dead Redemption 2. Or actually, you can also just play Red Dead Redemption 2 and then Red Dead Redemption. And then with all those mods, or the mods that I mentioned earlier by Badass Baboon, which is only available on PC though, on Next Mods. So if you don't have a PC, you're kind of out of luck. And one of the questions that you find through the theme is of for Arthur, since he knows he's already doomed by working in this game or being an outlaw. How can he make his life better? And kind of like what John did, kind of separate himself, because everybody becomes an outlaw because of economic and political circumstances, right? Uh, it's basically ingrained in our system. You see all the inequality and mistreatment from other people, which I feel like a lot of these people are literally just mentally ill, and they all need to be treated ASAP. Like now, I'm starting to think why a lot of people were lobotomized in the past. But we should also lobotomize our presidents, our CEOs. Like, those are the people that you don't want to have a brain. I guess they got a point. We have a lot of rich people that are not that intelligent. I think that's fair, honestly. Because it is very scary if we have intelligent people that are powerful, right? I guess. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's already research on that, and they already know what's best, so we gotta just believe. So in Red Dead Redemption 2, you have Dutch, who basically gives you like life lessons, kind of, about the Wild West and what it's like to be an outlaw. At first, you believe in his cause, we're fighting for our freedom, and they're like making money to pay something. I can't remember what it was. Something about buying land or a town, and then they're all gonna live there or something. And it was like freedom. So Dutch is basically that guy, that's a rebel in society. He talks about freedom, he has control, he protects people, and it's actually framed in a way that they say that his leadership is manipulation. And he always says, we just need money, Arthur. We can get more money. We'll be able to buy this and then do this. And that's one thing he got wrong. He don't know economy. It's just a carrot on stick created by other people that hold stick. Do you believe that? So if everybody on Earth had a chance to create their own economy, which is basically what the early 19th, 18th, 17th century was all about, a lot of people had so many ideas of what an economy should be and how it should be ran. And I guess it ran its course after about 200 years. We got to see which countries survived economically, I guess. But the key thing here to take away is that most of the countries that say their economic policies are at best were only because of fascist ideals like military power, putting a lot of laws and restrictions on their citizens and country members. And see, like I tell you, all of you countries are stupid and made all the wrong decisions, and you all think you are right, but all your ideals are the same at the root core, right? Like if you take an iceberg analogy, you just realize wow, you're all just a bunch of liars. And I'm pretty sure no one's gonna argue that, because I have never seen any billionaire or any president ever for any country address those problems openly or candidly. I mean, they talk about problems in general, like wars, political things, and such, but that doesn't really answer your questions. And you see that a lot in Red Dead Redemption 2 with their political climate and economics. So as you go through as Arthur and you're fighting against the government and even federal agents, you're also fighting other outlaws that have different ideals and whatnot. So how did the game even become that great of a story? because with the game comes with the good gameplay. You can talk to NPCs. There's a little bit of side quests. You can hunt, you can fish, you can camp, you can clean your weapon and stuff like that. A lot of small things that just add to the immersion. That's what really makes a game great, right? In my opinion. Oh, I like this bow. That's a good bow. So like I'm trying to get tri-shield with tri-shield follow. I like using that one because it helps me play better. Yo, that's great. And it has PP burn. So as I was saying, you can also rob trains and banks. Then they did also have multiplayer mode, and you can help strangers, do crime, all that stuff. Just like GTA, Grand Theft Auto. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 was also one of the few games that has sold over 100 million units since launch. And that's very insane for a game that's already been out for almost, actually, it's been more than like 10-20 years as a franchise itself. And it's still going, right? A lot of people maybe pick up on the Red Dead Redemption. Like it's like a classic, when you read a book, you have like The Great Gatsby or The Mockingbird or The Rye in the Haystack or something, and other books like I I guess it's a good classic game to play, Red Dead Redemption. It's really one of those games that are superior in their genre, you know, as I would say. So then you get to choose at the end of the day when you play both, which one really resonated with you? Arthur Morgan or John Marston? The contrast between each character and their different dynamics is very noticeable because in the end John wanted to focus more about settling down and having a family, but then you also have Arthur, who was more focused on just honestly surviving, and I guess he kind of got the worst of it, I would say. But Arthur definitely is one of those guys in the game that had a clear goal and kind of went with the flow. And that leads to something strange. Why does Red Dead Redemption feel like a blockbuster movie? Well, obviously because of the story and the way it's told, and of course the cinematic cutscenes, and just everything about it was well put and well thought out. How the dialogue in the West is greatly enunciated. I would consider the game probably a close masterpiece, 9 out of 10 for a series in general. So that leaves us to the legacy that Red Dead leaves behind, even though it's just a few games and a spin-off. So Red Dead is obviously one of the biggest franchises when it comes to the Wild West. And actually, Red Dead Redemption continues to still sell and still continues to get, stability updates here and then, but nothing too crazy. But like I said, the modding community is still going strong. There's definitely some people that are really invested in the series and continue to make more mods. So, people can enjoy the game, even though Rockstar doesn't actively work on the game as much, which is good. This is why I always like it when people are very passionate. Passionate as in not being too business minded. I mean, I'm sure business people are passionate about business, which is starting to get annoying. feel like we should target or channel our energy into other things instead of being a corporate leech or leech society. Actually put in some value instead of saying you're going to put some value in all that bullshit. Like if you watch some videos from like Anderson Horowitz or YC Combinator or all those pre-funding investment capital venture capital firms, man, they all say the same shit and it all leads to the same shit and nobody's happy, but they still continue to do it. That's the thing. And when you think about that with Red Dead Redemption 2, you have all these outlaws which could definitely represent venture capitalists, and the ending is always the same for them, but they still do it because they say it's for the thrill of the game, which kind of sucks because they drag everybody else into it, which is annoying. And it's pretty obvious that a lot of people don't really care, and you can still live your life and go on. You just have to ignore all that shit and put in your faith and your trust into the community and people around you, which was basically what Dutch was trying to do in a sense. But we had the government in Red Dead Redemption deny that, and they didn't want people to cooperate with each other, and they thrived on political chaos because they were able to profit from it, right? So Red Dead Redemption could have become a lot of number of things. Rockstar could have definitely took the game further, could have added more DLC or expanded the Red Dead online, which is okay. But there was a lot of glaring issues with how they would handle ranch ownership, train robberies, properties, even to contrast where they had GTA Online. The game was a mess. I bet that shit was spaghetti coded to the max. Just imagining all that network coding and player interaction, it must have been really hard to keep track of. But now they can use agentic AI coding with, so a lot of people keep saying, oh, this is outdated, this is outdated, which is true. It's an evolving field, and I wouldn't necessarily say anything is outdated as long as it's working for you. It's not really outdated. It's always comes down to this one thing. When it comes to using the right tool, every tool has its advantage and disadvantage, and it's up to you to figure out which tool is better for the job. A square is always going to be good for being a box, and a circle is always good for being a pizza. Okay, those are really bad analogies, but you get the point. Or like a spear is always good for being a wheel, right? So when people say like, oh, you shouldn't be doing harnesses or multi-agent programming or whatever, bro, you just choose the best tool and your best technique for the job you want, right? You don't, like, obviously this is even, you don't hire a cook to fix your car. So yeah, you just figure that out yourself. And I think for what Red Dead Redemption 2 or Red Dead franchise in general, I felt that they really honed down on each character dynamic, like in the group, right? Specific characters were good at certain things, and I guess that really contributed to like the camaraderie and little base building the game had in general. So maybe the problem with Rockstar was that they just tried to monetize the game a little harder or whatever. But they pretty much added all the features they wanted to. And Red Dead's greatest strength is the immersion and the world itself. And people always come back returning to the game because there's no other game with that kind of gameplay, to be honest. It's very difficult to make a game just like that. Because I mean, there hasn't really been another one like that. Rockstar puts a lot of money and effort into their games, which is really nice. But there's been a lot of studios lately that have been doing the same, but keeping in within their budget and limits. But imagine if they had unlimited budget. Damn, imagine the games we would have. Crazy. So that brings us to the next point. Now we're going to be talking about fans are literally taking the first one and saying, what if we made spin-offs of Red Dead Redemption? Maybe people can figure out a way to mod the game like they've done with Skyrim. Like Skyrim has totally new storylines, quests from the modding community. It's insane. So as I said, Badass Baboon created Reality Redemption, and it changes not a lot of things, but it makes a noticeable difference with the textures, the models, the weather cycles, the visual fidelity, of effects, continuity errors with like the gameplay being a little blocky, chunky, and just the overall fluidity and realism as well, since it's a pretty dated game with like PS3 graphics. That's already outdated. So it's basically a remaster for some players that had faith that Rockstar would make one, but of course they're busy right now. So if you're interested in that, you could try out that mod for Red Dead Redemption 1, and you can use Nexus mods to help you install it. And I guess I will skip over this section because I already pretty much talked about that all the time. And I'm just gonna go straight into like what's next for the Red Dead Redemption series. So this will mostly be opinion based, but I think we should go and see what's after. Honestly, I feel like they're right. The game is kind of concluded because after Red Dead Redemption 2, when Arthur Morgan and you see John and you kill Dutch, it's basically concluded. Like the only follow through I would see for the series would probably be, of John's son, which would probably be a more tame thing, but the outlaw period in history wasn't really that long, and I felt like it probably kind of covered most of the important things about the outlaw era in America. So yeah, I feel like the only thing they would have as choice is making another prequel to probably Red Dead Redemption 2. Which let me look real quick if they're doing that. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So there's some rumors going around that the next Red Dead Redemption, like I said, well it has to be a prequel. Because I mean, if we're going back in time, Red Dead Redemption 1 was basically the ending or the beginning. Sorry, is it ending? Why am I having a hard time talking about this? Was the ending to Red Dead Redemption 2, and Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be the ending to Red Dead Redemption 3. So it might even go further and back to when the gang was being formed. We're just, so you'll probably play as Dutch this time or something. You know what I'm saying? The speculation on the origin story of Dutch and how he recruited all these people, which would be interesting. But I feel like maybe the technology will definitely be less exciting, right? Like maybe there's not as much trains or that freaking machine gun. So it could, you know, have the early Van der Linde gang, the Blackwater Massacre, and like things that have new protagonists and alternate eras. So yeah, I feel like the next thing for that series is just going prequel after prequel, which is funny as the name goes higher. You know, we'll have like Red Dead Redemption 5, and it'll just be at the birth of the outlaw era, whatnot. So the lore just builds backwards, which is an interesting way to tell a story. And I think that's pretty much next. You know, like I said, it'll be about young Dutch and Hosea, young Arthur, young John, and everything. Which I don't even know personally. I wouldn't really be too invested in that. But I guess gameplay wise and franchise wise, it would be interesting. And that's literally the problem with the story, though. Is like you already know how everything ends. So why would they make a prequel to a prequel, right? At some point, Red Dead Redemption 4 is going to be just Arthur Morgan, and he's going to be 8 years old, stealing candy. And you're going to play as his parents. So I think there's a limit. And probably Red Dead Redemption 3 will be the last game in the franchise, because it would make it a perfect trilogy. And then they'll probably make some movies or a show based on it to milk it out a little bit further, you know? From a business standpoint, that would make sense, but I don't really care about business, okay? Business is an easy major, bro. Like, you just have to be the worst person possible to succeed in business. Alright. Oh, there's even more, like the peak of the West. You know, like I said, in 1800s, it's basically the peak. They would have boom towns, more gunfights, more cattle wars. I think this was also the time where they started fighting more of the Native Americas and establishing casinos. So yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe they have like Casino Tycoon, like a kind of mini game in there. I don't know. That'd be interesting. Outlaws everywhere. Just a lot of really cool stuff. So hopefully the map will obviously be expanded to new areas that we've never seen before, right? So maybe when they are telling the story for the younger versions of each character in the gang or outlaw group, they tell us how they all traveled from different parts of the world, I guess, to come up into that area. You know, kind of like how Octopath Traveler has with the main start of the game, where you have 8 main characters, but they all start in different regions, but then they all converge together as you progress through the story, which would be cool. I like that idea. So it keeps the world connected and leaves them as a legendary game or story, whatever. And then it's just some crazy bastard named Dutch trying to rob banks and make a living, honestly. And you go through all this jumping through hoops to figure out. So, at the end of the day, I would absolutely believe Rockstar will eventually return to Red Dead, and they're probably working on it secretly right now as we speak. But, you know, it's probably a very slow development cycle, since obviously they're focusing on GTA 6 and maintaining their current running games, I guess, for support. I couldn't imagine how many developers are working there, but I'm pretty sure, and I know for sure, a lot of the original developers are already retired. So I'm guessing most of the team at Rockstar is new. basically new people, new in the sense that they haven't been with the series since the beginning. So yeah, hopefully when they do, it will probably be a prequel, takes us backwards, gives us more information about the West and how civilization wins, a new protagonist, new games, more lore to every character that we knew from the first game, and it'll just become more legendary as the story goes on. Honestly, people will be more drawn to the ideas and moral standpoints of how Arthur, Morgan, and John develop, and of course Dutch. You know, they're just not a random bunch of group of people that decided to work with each other. They all had their own goals within that group, and that's why these groups are formed, similar to like real life. So I think that's it for today's Walk, Talk, and Rock. Uh, as I mentioned, check out the mod for Red Dead Redemption 1, Reality Redemption, I believe that was called. Oh, Nexus Mods by Badass Baboon. Or if you haven't even played Red Dead Redemption 2 or the series in general, I suggest you should. It's a really, even if you're not into games, just play it on the easiest difficulty. It's kind of like a movie. It's pretty relaxing too. I don't think it's an extremely hard game. It takes a while to beat though. It takes a long while, and there's a lot of different things you can do, like the hunting. I think there's fishing and all that. So hopefully, Red Dead Redemption 3 will officially be announced. As of now, there's not really clear signals from Rockstar that I know of or have seen, but I'm pretty sure it's coming, y'all. Yeehaw! I'll see you in the next Walk Talk Rock, and I hope you have a great day.